Everyone, and welcome back to Self Mastery Labs. This is a channel where I, in an unedited way, totally unedited, free flow, lecture about self-mastery in an attempt to really, from the ground up, build a foundation where I can feel like I've mastered myself at the end of the day, at the end of my life, and create a process where I can go to sleep at the end of every night feeling like I gave it everything I had and I'm happy and content with where I'm at, which for a lot of us out there is super difficult. A lot of us ambitious people that love like going after things and achieving things. The big question that keeps coming up sometimes is, well, why do I not feel content? I have all these great things. So I want to answer those questions. I want to build self-mastery. I want to create the habits I want to create. I want to choose the character traits that I believe in and I want to be, rather than just letting it all happen. And I want to share everything that I experience on that journey with you. Hopefully that's useful. And hopefully, so it's an experiment of sorts. This whole thing is an experiment. Started this January 1st, 2026, so it's little more than a couple weeks in. It's been a really fun getting on here and just sharing these thoughts, ideas in a really raw way where it's just a journal, my journals, my notes, trying to build this structure. So I'm gonna give you a quick recap of, where I'm at now. And so it started with just figuring out like, okay, well, if I'm really gonna master myself, like really do it, like finally. And finally after all these years, even though I've achieved a decent amount, you could call what I've done successful, both in my family life and business, but I think but I've always thought more that I feel like I'm failing more than anything else with habits and goals, and I really would like to finally find a system that even if I'm not achieving things, that I'm really happy with how I've pursued it. And that's where I think self-mastery comes into play, and like giving yourself the best shot, giving myself the best shot I can at creating systems and refining and just having my awareness on it as much as I can, until something, life pulls me, but then have a way that I can get right back to it when I'm able. And so I started and came up with, where I'm at now is I've come up with 6 pillars, 6 cogs is what I've been calling it, because I feel like they all connect with each other and they all need to kind of work together in order and they feed each other. So I'm kind of imagining these cogs all turning, and once they all they feed each other and they give each other momentum and strength. So the first cog is belief. What do I believe? What do I believe in? Really going deep on that, and then setting up a system where I review it daily right now, or I'm reviewing and refining it daily, but pushing myself to really figure out at this stage of my life, what do I believe in about the bigger picture about life? 2, what is my why? What is my purpose here? And tying that into my belief, but really asking myself that, spending the time with that. The next level, the next cog is asking myself, what do I want kind of here in my day-to-day life, and money, friends, family, you name it, everything, sports, fitness, extracurricular activities. What do I want? What does it look like? Detailed, specific. I've already laid all that out. Number 4, what character traits do I want to embody, to live by as I pursue these things? And they should tie into my wants, my why, my purpose, and my belief system. It should all work together. And then the next thing is, what emotions do I want to feel? Do I want to amplify? do I want to wield as I go? Because those emotions that I'm feeling, that I'm bringing, that I'm working with are going to affect the people around me. They're going to affect how I approach all these goals, these things that I'm trying to achieve. And to be cognizant of the emotions, because emotions can give me energy, and they can also take energy. I think extremely important. And it's why I just thought I need to put this as a foundational thing where I'm aware and I'm controlling what I can control about my emotions. I don't think a lot of people talk about this kind of stuff. Maybe they do it and figure it out, but not in a really conscious way. I mean, who wakes up and is like, what kind of emotions am I? What are my, how am I feeling? And putting those out there, what kind of people am I avoiding that make me feel a certain way, etc. The last one is create what kind of systems, habits, actions, rules and regulations, what kind of things am I putting in place that will actually tie into all the other cogs and make them run. This is super important. I can't wait to get to that point. Right now we're at character traits. So yesterday we were here too and we went through about 20 character traits. I'm gonna keep going on that, on the character traits. Just a super fun area. I'm actually gonna review again the ones that I highlighted yesterday that just jumped out at me and really resonated with me. The first one was purpose. I mean, that just is like, it just keeps coming up for me, which is something totally unexpected. I didn't grow up with any kind of like a religious background or anything that would make me think about the bigger pictures, I guess, so it's, really feeling like purpose, and deeper meaning is like, it just keeps coming up in multiple different ways. So it's one that it's not something I would have expected, but it makes a whole lot of sense to me that it's something that I need to figure out and I should spend time on. And it would be super useful if I actually do figure it out, because that purpose is your engine, it's your energy. It can be, I believe it can be, and I can only understand it insofar as it logically makes sense. And I know that the times in my life where I've felt determined, it's tied to a certainty. And so I can only imagine if you can somehow get to a point where you believe in a larger purpose, it probably could fuel you in a way that you've never been fueled before. So I think it's worth the time, is what I'm saying. That's one that jumped out at me. Strength was probably the biggest one. That's like my number one. I feel like it's just, for whatever reason, it resonates with me based on my upbringing. I love the idea of something that's strong, deep strength, inner strength, mental strength, fortitude. It just, just the depths, that how strong are you and not in a like macho way. For me, that's not strength. For me, strength is way, way beyond like masculine and feminine and anything like that. I'm talking about, and you can probably even see when I start talking about strength, I don't know why I resonate with it so much. I'm not saying I'm like, I've always thought of myself as a pretty strong individual, especially inside. But it's just something that excites me, and it makes me want to grow and makes me want to understand it more and focus on it and keep it as a big character trait of mine. Something that I understand. I never consciously thought about it before. I never consciously understood that I valued it so much. I value strength in people. I fucking love when I see somebody who's just, I can tell they're they've got some kind of deeper confidence, some kind of deeper strength. There's very few things that I see that I'm like, wow, that person has some depth and some strength in there. That if you were to shed away tear away everything that they have, that that core in there is like powerful. Another one that struck me was integrity. It resonates with me. It inspires me. I'm not saying I'm, that it's something I want to be. I want to have that be defined as someone with integrity. I highly resonate with it, though. It definitely inspires me. If I see people with high integrity, I can be moved by that. I think a lot of us can, Grit resonate. I really resonate with grit. So that's, just huge. Like figuring, like to me, grit is, being able to figure almost anything out when you decide you want something, and in outside the box thinking, resilience, never stopping. Compassion was also one that resonated with me. Just being able to connect with people in that way and really see where they're at outside of yourself is moving to me, and also makes a lot of sense to me in terms of bigger picture success, and just intelligence. Like it just feels like, if the higher intelligence you are, the more compassion I think you would probably have, because you realize your size in the universe, and to be not compassionate towards maybe suffering or whatever, ignorance, or being not compassionate about anything you're seeing, and being like the opposite, judgmental, angry, all those things are, dehumanizing. Like you're not understanding why a person or thing or something could reach that point that you're judging. But with compassion, that means you are understanding that. You're looking at something that may not be ideal, and you're understanding of it, and you're understanding how it gets there, and maybe you're understanding that you could also be there. And that then opens you up to, I think, success, cooperation, bigger picture survival, longer survival. So compassion was another one that resonates with me. Fun, just like at the end of the day, not taking any of it too seriously, and having fun, because there's no certainty in anything. Humility, this hugely resonated with me. Again, it's a trait that I'm inspired by when I see it. I'm in awe of it, and would like to be someone with real humility, not false humility, real humility, not self-deprecation. I think humility is tied to strength, again, and intelligence, because to be humble, to be truly humble, even if you're the best of the best of the best at something, and to be truly humble, it takes intelligence, because you then also realize, like, no matter how great you are, well, you're human, and your lifespan is going to go like that, and 1,000,000 years is going to pass, or 5,000,000 years, or billion years, and whatever you've done is, not that significant. It is, on the one hand, from a different perspective, but again, we're looking at everything here. So courage is another one that resonated with me, and it's just a tool that all of us need, man. Imagine if you could just be like, souped up with courage. You'd have a lot easier of a time when fear comes knocking, and doubt and all those things that hold you back. If you were full of courage, it would be a lot easier. But it's a great trait to kind of encourage and grow. Patience was another one that really resonated with me. Just unbelievably necessary, and it takes a lot of intelligence to understand that you don't always need to rush into things. There's another opportunity. Make sure this is right. Patience is extremely valuable. Patience with people, patience with everything, your pursuits, everything. All right, I'm gonna get into some new ones here. Dynamic character trait, the character trait of dynamicism. I think this is really, really important, and I think it indicates intelligence and critical thinking, because a lot of times for a lot of people it's easier to think in black and white. Well, if you did this and this, and no very little variation. And I think that most things you're dealing with, you can see something that looks like a repeating pattern or looks like it's something you understand what's happening, and there's a difference, and that difference can change the whole thing. And in this day and age especially, I think with the way that we communicate with each other on social media and in the way that we only see snapshots of things in the news, that to think dynamically, especially the more important something gets, like if it's really, really important in your judgment on whatever you're seeing or maybe taking action on, if it's very important, you need to think more dynamically. You need to really check everything. And dynamic thinking is just crucial. It can slow you down for sure because you're considering more things, but the value and the return on it is, you're able to understand things more and make less mistakes. Team player, the character trait of being a team player. This ties into being successful. I don't know how you can be super successful without being a team player. I think it ties into your happiness levels, because we're, in some ways, humans are pack animals, and when we feel like we're contributing to a community or to our pack and we're useful and valuable, we're happy in that. And so I think, finding ways to be a team player, to that be part of your character trait would be super useful. Outside the box thinker. This is a big one for me. I really resonate with it. I think that I attribute a lot of any successes that I've had in my life to grit, and which is also tied to outside the box thinking, I think. But outside the box thinking, where you really can assess a situation, and you might think there are no solutions. And if you don't think outside the box, you're not going to find the solution. You really need to think, no, there's a way, and I'm going to find it. And I'm going to look over here, and I'm going to spend that time. And in my experience, in my business, I've done things many times over where I had to solve a problem, and I started going down a path to solve it that I didn't even know how we were going to get there. But big deal. Like, I could see all the things, like, got to nail this because it's important for this reason. It's important for our business for this reason. But we have this huge problem. And almost, so there's one instance I'm thinking about in particular where I think every single person on staff with me was like, there's no way. There's no way. We just have to concede here and then pick up the pieces. And that may be true sometimes. You do need to know when to fold them. But if you can think outside the box, there's usually a solution. And depending on how, you have to be able to think dynamically and assess the situation, understand how important is it to make this happen? You know, what is it worth? What risks is it worth? And so I definitely felt that it was important. And so, in this situation, I went really outside the box and like down paths, spending time. And there were people on staff that it was really hard for them because even though their job wasn't affected that much. I mean, I was doing most of the work in exploring these paths and trying to figure out how to solve the problem, and trying to collaborate with other businesses. And I ended up coming up with a solution that was, really led to a ton of success. It was just like the most successful thing ever. And we were fueled by that for a few years. It brought returns. It's having, outside the box thinking a lot of the time. If you're a black and white thinker and you're trying to be efficient, you won't allow yourself even to go there, because a lot of times when you're thinking outside the box, you're willing to go down paths for solutions that take a lot of time and energy, knowing that they might not lead you anywhere. But you're taking that, you're going there, you're using that energy, and then if it doesn't work, you're gonna go down another path, Outside the box thinking is, there's always a solution. And sometimes usually what happens with me with outside the box thinking is I'll think of an outside the box thought and I'll go pretty far down that path, and it doesn't work. We can't do that for whatever. There's a lot of reasons why you just can't. No, that's not going to work. And then, but what it does is it kind of leads you somewhere else. It like opens the door to creativity somehow, and eventually you come to something that does work most of the time. But if you're not willing to think outside the box, it's like one of those things where some people have it and some people don't. With outside the box thinking, there's stories of like, oh, how did someone get a job interview? And they thought outside the box. They're like, how do I even get in touch with this person who's hiring? I don't have any of the qualifications. And they thought outside the box. They're like, oh, I know that the head of that company likes whatever. And then they found a way to, get that thing to their assistant and or the driver. And then, the driver delivered it to the assistant, and somehow they got a letter that they wrote that then within it showed that they were aware of something that company and that CEO is looking for in this high. So they got themselves in the door by going, oh, I'm going to think outside the box. I'm going to do all these other things. But imagine if you did all those things and you didn't get it. That's probably going to happen at some point. And a lot of people aren't willing to go through those ways. And in the very beginning, though, they say, that's not possible. We can't get in. Like, everybody's applying for that, whatever it is. But outside the box is huge for me. And I think it's something that I would love to be a part of my character, something I work on. Honorable. It's a big one for me too. This is one that really definitely resonates and has always resonated with me. I don't know if I would define myself as honorable, maybe in some situations, but like it's one that I really notice as like if I'm watching a movie, and like you see the character that makes like an super honorable move. or just like lives with honor in a certain way it is inspiring to me, and it is energy invoking for me. And that can be in, it's not something that I think honor is something you can, in little ways, you can be honorable to the universe or to the unknown, or to just by the little tiny things. You can start to evoke honor in the tiniest gesture, in a thought. You can evoke honor. It's like, it's a powerful trait. If you are hearing a baby in the background, it's not, you're not hearing things. We do have one of our employees is got their baby here today. She's very cute. But yeah, I think I'm glad we're going here with this, because honor is another huge one. It sounds so nerdy to talk about. I almost think to like the movie Gladiator, when like Maximus is like whenever he like greets he's the general, his Roman army, he's like, strength and honor. It's cheesy as hell, but it's like, but if you get past that and you get past that cheesiness of the word honor, because it is, the only time you hear it is like in the Navy or the Army, it's like, you don't use the word on a day-to-day basis, and there's not really many places for it. You're not with your friends and be like, yeah, dude, that was honorable. Like, you just don't, no one uses the word. No one you don't get the compliment. Oh, wow, Ryan, that was an honorable move you made. I mean, maybe, but like rarely. Like, people just don't think or talk about it very much. It's only used in very minimal ways, usually to do with military stuff, yeah, like a soldier had an honorable death, and or honorable discharge, or honorable, or maybe in court, the honorable. But if you really think about the word, and maybe there's a better word for it, but the way I feel it is, it's a respect, and maybe that is a better word for it. I'll write that down. It's a respect. There's a certain kind of, there's a respect that we all resonate with. I think we all resonate with, right? Like, when you give someone, another person, another human attention, and you really, you come to them with the benefit of the doubt, the curiosity, the respect, the kindness, there's some feeling that transacts there. And you can do that, you can have that same respect with anything. You can have that moment with the universe, with God, whatever you want to call it. A moment of, maybe there's humility tied into it. There's a lot of these character traits that we're talking about that are tied into it. You've got to sort of, if you want to tap that feeling that's honor or respect or whatever we want to call it, it's like, and it's usually, honor for me is tied to when you take action on something and you do it in a way that involves respect and good intention and humility, courage, strength, compassion, Yeah, it's like those character traits are like tied into honor. Like you can't really have a real honor amplifies when those other traits are there with you as you take action on something. Purpose. Like if your purpose is truth. If your purpose is true, purpose, truth. So for honor. Yeah, for me, honor feels like it's a larger one, and it actually encompasses a number of things. Purpose, like if you have this, and if you're in action and you're going towards something that is like a true purpose, something outside of yourself, usually. I think it works best if it's outside of yourself. If it's truly like beyond yourself somehow. Purpose, truth, humility. Strength. Courage. Yeah, those are purpose, truth, humility, strength, courage. Those are the main ones that I see right now. Compassion, maybe. That's where honor lies for me, is like you've pursuing something outside of yourself, beyond yourself. You've got courage because you're kind of stepping into the unknown. Your purpose is true, so there's truth in there. You're humble. You've got strength. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a selflessness that needs to be attached to that character trait. So I think there's more to mine there. I mean, one thing that really is like coming out of this for me as I like spend the time on this, which is kind of crazy, you know. I don't know how much people spend this much time on something like character traits. I don't know if a regular person has the time or makes the time. I mean, I certainly don't have the time. Or I didn't think I did, but I'm making it here because I think it's that important. I'm like that, I want it that bad. I'm tired of not kind of choosing what I am, and at least what I'm pursuing, regardless of if I ever get to what I am, what I want to be. But I'm tired of not choosing. I'm fucking done with it. I'm like, that's why I'm spending all this time. I want to know. I want to choose this shit. I want to choose and go, now this is my character. This is what I want my character to be. And if it's not quite there and it becomes something else that I'm not aware of, well, at least I tried my hardest, you know, to like mold it or in the way that I thought it was most effective, not just for myself, but for, you know, my impact. But the crazy thing that happens when I start to get into all this and talk about this in front of this camera is I start to feel like there's certain traits that have more of this than others for me, but like they almost carry a different language to them that's not just words. I mean, of course, right? You know, you need to, these things these are character traits that really, it's your actions that are, these words are actually trying to define. But it's like there's more than that too. It seems it's like some of these, there are feelings that I feel like you can tap into for each of these character traits. Some of them more than others. You know, that, and maybe it's just the thought of a certain action triggers a feeling. And that's just probably what it is in a scientific way. It's nothing, it could be nothing spiritual or nothing deeper than that. It's just certain actions elicit certain feelings in humans. And it's just a reaction. Or there's something else. And that's one of the things that keeps popping up for me as I dig deeper and deeper into these, all these things about being and existing and character traits. And is there something more? Are these things tied, their actions, they're tied to human actions, and then they're defined, and then they create feelings, but is there more than that? Is there some energy behind each of these things? And I do think that is possible, that there's some energy, some form of existence, maybe even some consciousness that is, courage, that it's a thing that exists, just like fear. Maybe that exists, and it's like almost like an entity, it's a thing that exists, and it carries energy and some kind of particles, and it can move, parts of it can move in and out of things, other forms of matter. And humans can, if it moves, maybe all these things are all around us all the time, and we're bringing them to us in different ways. The tools that we have are our physical bodies, but maybe there's some deeper truths here, deeper meanings, but maybe not. I think it's worth the exploration. Fairness, character trait of fair. If that's something that, that is, I think that would, for me, that would probably be something that I would put in my top list of character traits that I would want, because, I think there are levels to these things, right? It's like, well, life isn't necessarily fair. It's not necessarily, or maybe it is, right? But maybe on the whole, it actually is very fair. It just depends on what perspective you're looking at things from. But as a person, I think most definitely ties into my feelings of like desires of like wanting, honor and respect, and, is like, okay, well, I prefer fairness. And that does tie into my wants and my goals, because, as I pursue things, I'm going to be faced with situations that, hey, in business, am I making a fair deal here? Yeah, I'm making a deal that's best for me and my business, but I also need to be making making sure that I'm not making a deal that's not a loss for somebody else. So there's got to be that I should be using my leverage when I have it, but at the same time, I'm not trying, part of my choosing my existence and my self-mastery is understanding where I stand on those things and how I want to employ these traits, and those tie in for me everything all the way up to my bigger picture belief. And fairness would be one where I would put in there. And it's not like, it's not like these things are just one and done and perfect. These are just like, this is just a compass, but definitely that would be one where I think would be super useful. And I think honestly, like if you're talking fairness in business, I think the most, I'd be hard pressed not to say, if you really are talking about a business that survives long term, I definitely would have to argue in a pretty hard way with a lot of people who would say that's not a high trait for business, but I think it is. I think you could be the most dominant business in the world, making the most money in the world, and be fair, undoubtedly, and be the strongest with the biggest moat, and partially due to the fact that your dealings were fair. I think absolutely. And I don't want to. I feel like, people that do business, thinking that, just pure, like, crushing and dominating and, becoming the best and squashing out all opponents kind of way, it doesn't usually work in the bigger picture. It doesn't, I don't think it works in the long run, maybe for certain periods of time, but there's always then an overreach and a spread too thin and not balanced choice is not real strength, so, but I don't own one of the, biggest businesses in the world, so who am I to speak? But it's part of my beliefs. It's appearing to be, as I go through this, part of my strong beliefs. True, number 26, character traits, true. Yeah, I think, seeking truth, truth is like a weird thing, right? It's like, what is true? It's very hard, to understand what's true. But I think it's a worthy pursuit. And it ties to a lot of other things, like to find truth and to question things, your own motives, your own, is totally worthy if you value some of the other things that we've talked about, like, honor and, integrity and strength. Like if you value strength, pursuing truth is part of strength. You can't really, I don't see how, like facing truths that maybe you don't want to face, and dealing with them is hard sometimes. So you got to have strength. Whether that's like whatever you're looking at inside and facing, or whether it's things you're dealing with outside of yourself. So I think truth is a character trait that I would definitely put in for me. The pursuit of it. And it's difficult to face truths or but what is true, right? Or to just push that, because you may never find what actually is true. And there maybe nothing is actually true. Everything is different depending on where you're looking at from, where you're observing from. So true from one perspective is maybe not true from another. And maybe both of those things are true. Just. Yeah, I think just is, being like justice, just like being like I think that's fairness, fair, and I think those are pretty much the same thing. So one has more of a connotation of like honorable, but I think fair and just could be in the same. Balance. I think like balance, symmetry, balance, you know, I feel like I love like getting, I love feeling like getting something going, like getting a lot of momentum going on things and diving in. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to go out of balance. You know, you focus in so much in a certain area, and you can, it's beautiful to make, you know, to watch something grow that you've put so much attention on, and then, you know, other things don't get the focus and attention, and they maybe they're not balanced. But again, but balance is perspective, and I think, you know, in the whole, you may be balanced, whereas like for a period of time, it may seem like you're focused in one area, and that's okay. I think I believe in balance. I would want it in my character traits, but I would not. That does not mean that I couldn't be thought of as like extremely focused, and it doesn't mean that I need to always have complete balance in my life on a day-to-day basis. Happy, joyous. I mean, this is one that I think it's for me. I want that as part of my character. I want to feel really, truly like happiness, and it's a cool thing that's like I've started to notice. Like one of the just disciplines that I've already started putting in place is like cold showers, you know, getting outside first thing in the morning and just quick walk. Like it can literally be like 30 seconds. The sun's coming up. Usually when I'm out, so it's like pink skies, and even if it was snowing the other morning, and it's like there's when you fall into this. When you're pursuing something, you're doing something that's disciplined, and you're even by yourself like that, there's some really great joy you can get out of like something like that. Like just looking at the trees and the snow and feeling happiness and really feeling joyous at that. But it can be in all areas. I mean, I want to find the joy and stuff like that. And for me, I'm noticing that it comes. A lot of joy is enabled for me when I feel disciplined, when I feel like I'm unlocking things or doing things. I feel it's hard for me to feel joy when I feel like I like overindulged in something and I'm behind and I didn't get sleep and I wasn't like focused and I threw myself off. And I don't need to be perfect and stuff, but I feel happy and joy when I'm like, you know, when I'm pursuing and I'm refining and I'm trying. And then I get to have these moments where I'm like, I can be with someone and it can bring me unbelievable joy. Just little tiny moments with people or it just brings me so much more but it's all for me tied to, you know, this like self-mastery, making sure I'm doing everything I can, and the effort doesn't even matter. It's like I could care less if I could have, you know, exerted so much energy, you know, I could fucking run a marathon, and it's like I could be so happy because I'm doing this work and I'm trying, and I'm like trying to figure it out. I'm trying, and something about that brings me some serious happiness and joy. And I've felt the opposite. You know, I've gone through many periods of my life where I'm like, I feel like I can't keep up, too much going on. You know, there's probably even less effort. But I'm branching into something else right now. But happy and joyous as a character trait, like if super useful. However you get there. I've obviously just shared how I get there, because I'm realizing it as I go. Like, what really makes me happy? Well, being on a path that I've chosen and being relentless and gritty and not letting go of that, being true to that and saying, you know what, fuck this. I'm not going to just let this go. Because all my life I've, like been like, oh yeah, I'll get to it later. No, I'm not gonna get to it later. I'm gonna get to it now and hold on to it. And if I'm doing that, I'm happy. And then everything else that I experience is amplified happiness, because it allows me to enjoy. It allows me some kind of freedom, because I'm like, no matter what happens, it doesn't mean I've succeeded at anything. It just means that I'm happy with the level of pursuit and the way that I'm going about it. And I'm content with that at the moment. And that opens up happiness for me. But in terms of happiness and joy, is however you get there. Maybe for you, it's eating a bag of Doritos and watching Netflix for 8 fucking hours straight or something. I don't know. But joy, I would argue against that's temporary joy. But but joy and happiness, I mean, I think that you want to, that there's no certainty in any of this, so to connect with that, for me, is very important, and I think useful and just awesome to share with other people, and ties in everything else beautifully. Good, the character trait of just good. I just wrote down good, right? Like, all right, it's like, what is good? What is bad? I don't know. I think I wrote that down, and it's like, maybe that's not useful. What is, because how do you define that? Like, what is good? I think just, because it's basically all these other things, it's like, so maybe it's just a reinforcement of that, it's just, and why, right? Well, I just prefer that. It makes me feel better. I don't know other than that. It's good, what is the thing, and I think I need to spend some time on like figuring out how I would define good. What does it actually mean? But maybe it's not useful as a character trait, because it's just, there are other things that are just way more specific and definable. But I'll go back to that another time. Organized as a character trait. This one is huge for me, because it's been a challenge all my life. But I think that you can find many ways to be organized, but to be able to organize is I think very necessary in however you do it. If it's organizing your thoughts, or making them more efficient, organizing your time, organizing your planning, organizing your house, organizing your car, organizing your journals, organizing your to-do list, or, I just think at some point there's not really any getting around, like, being organized is, I don't see how your life couldn't be better the more organized you are. And so to work on that, to have that, for me, it's like to then go, all right, well, I've never been defined as organized. Like, no one's ever said to me, oh my God, Ryan, you're so organized. I know people like that, it's like, those people, right? There's some people that are extremely organized, and I don't think I need to be like, I need to be effective organized. I don't need to be like labeling jars of, tomato sauce in my, cabinet at home. that's not going to help me with like my other goals here. So I need to organize in so much as it helps me with all these other things that I'm trying to do. My character traits. I need to organize these traits. I need to understand what's more important to me. What's the priority? Things like that. So organization, definitely huge for me. Belief as a character trait. I don't know how that's a character trait. Like if I were to define, or if I were to like define someone and say he's belief, I don't know how that would make sense. Or he has a high level of belief. I think that might be like purpose. So I don't know if we can use that right now, at least. Confident. I definitely think this is one that emerges when you do the work, you know, in your life, when you do the self-mastery work, when you focus on anything that for long enough, you're going to get confident that if you just do it, you know. I think confidence emerges from stacked actions on specific things. But I think it is definitely one that I would want to be defined as, you know, and to be aware of and to work on. It's like, was I confident in that situation? Did I approach that with confidence? No, why not? Was I prepared? I think it's going to be useful to really be, you know, to have that in most situations. Am I confident here? Do I know what's happening? You know, do I know about what I'm dealing with? You know, how much can I know about it? Confidence also allows you to sort of take appropriate risks. So that's a good one. Urgency. Urgency is huge in business. I mean, I can tell you, like in my business, it's one of the things that it's the hardest to find in people. It's a hard trait to upkeep in yourself. I mean, I've found that I understand urgency when I'm motivated enough to see it, you know, or to see when we need to be urgent here. This situation is like we have a small window of opportunity, and we need that. Everybody on the team needs that urgency to make this happen. But urgency is like it's a hard trait to find. There's a lot of people that just let opportunities go. They don't even because they don't see. Well, one, I mean, it's a different skill and different character trait to like be able to recognize those moments of opportunity, and then to have the vision. Vision is a good one. I mean, vision kind of ties to creativity, which we talked about yesterday. But I mean, urgency is like it's just a lot of people I've noticed. I'm shocked by is like, you know, if they say, "Oh, I really want this in my life," but then the moment comes or the thing that they need to do comes, and they don't have the urgency to pounce on that moment that they may never get again, you know. It probably ties into a lot of these other character traits like, you know, courage and discipline and strength and intelligence. I mean, intelligence really is like big because, you know, if you got to be smart enough to see these things, and you can't be taught. It's like, I don't know, you can be taught. You can, but school's not going to teach you. I think a lot of these things, it's like you can't, it's hard to learn in a school structure because so many things are given to you, right? It's like, it's not like you live or die it's not like, oh, you didn't jump through this window, you didn't recognize the urgency and you're done, and then be critiqued on that. Hey, do you understand why this happened? Did you see this moment? It's not like you can push pause and there's like video recording it all, and it's like, do you see this moment here where you had this one opportunity with this one person you could have mentioned? It didn't guarantee anything, but you could have talked to this one person. You didn't have the vision to see that one person could have recommended you to this person. So why didn't you focus all your energy on that one person that you were having a meeting with, that was coming through your school or whatever it is, coming through your business? Like, that was your one shot. All your resources should have gone on creating a moment there. That then, okay, that would lead you to this other stepping stone. You got to have the vision to be able to see then that other stepping stone. If you can get there, it'll lead you to this one. You got to be able to piece it all together. And first of all, I mean, so vision is super important. But so many people don't even have the urgency to understand, or but it comes from motivation, really. Like if you're in a job where you see things come and go in a day, and your career isn't tied to like making that specific thing happen. Maybe it is for the owner, they're gonna reap the rewards. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why I don't see it enough. But on a personal level, on a self-mastery scale, urgency, I think, is huge. Right now, I mean, I'm at a place in terms of what I'm doing now in front of this camera is, I have a sense of urgency where I'm like, I know this isn't, I don't know if anyone's gonna see this, ever. I mean, I've like, most of these that are out, they have 0 views on them. I think maybe all of them. So it's like, I don't know if anyone will ever see this, but I have a sense of urgency that I need to do everything I can right now to keep this going, to keep working on these things, to keep refining these character traits. And for me, the commitment of just putting it on camera and putting it out there is helping me continue this process so that I keep doing it, and I don't, like, whatever happens in a day that sidetracks me, I'm still gonna jump back to this. For whatever reason, that is helping me right now continue to get this done. So, and I'm feeling urgent. I know, like, I've done this enough in my life where I've said, well, this year, this January, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna live fully. I'm gonna find a way to, at the very least, pursue all the things that I've wanted to go after, not just 1 or 2 of them. Even if I only get to chip away in a tiny way at some of them. And I'm feeling that urgency big time right now. And I'm really proud that I'm 2 weeks in, a little over 2 weeks in, and I'm still doing it. I'm still chipping away. Like today, I've gotten the character traits, and it's gonna take. I'm gonna need to exercise patience because there's still more work to be done. I don't even know the next step with this. I know that I need to be reviewing the traits that are most important to me every day, but I don't know. I don't really know beyond that. So I'm gonna have to refine this. But that's the beauty of the last pillar or foundation, is that so maybe I can leave this at this. I've come up with basically 34, 35 character traits that are a good starting point. And if I leave it at this today and I go tomorrow on to emotions, or the next day, or I guess it'll be Monday, so in a few days, to emotions and feelings and what I want to do with those, then we move past that in a couple days. Well, then we're on to systems. And the systems will probably take long. Maybe that'll take a full week or maybe 2 in creating a habit system. Then it's like, once I get through that, then I get to start, like, with the habit forging, which if I can get there, oh my God, I'm going to be so pumped, because I'll have laid out this huge, this big map, and then it's like, I feel like then I can build, right? I'll have built the map, I'll have built the instructions. And then the thing that makes a lot of sense to me is those instructions are going to be malleable. So I'm gonna part of the system, number 6, is to have systems that then get reviewed after a couple weeks and can be changed, not made easier necessarily, but changed to be more effective if something's not working. So the only thing for me to do will be to continue and to make sure that the systems that I've created are tiny enough that I can complete them, whatever systems or whatever habits I'm trying to do every day, that I can complete them, and that it's easy to complete. I'll give you a little taste of I've already started dabbling with it because I've already started with a ton of just disciplines that will go on a larger scale into my habit developments that I've been doing every day, and just checking, writing them down and checking them off, but giving myself just tiny things to do, and it's been awesome. One of the things that's really important to me is stretching and flexibility, and I put down stretching 1 minute. That's super easy for me to do. I often end up doing more, but I've been doing every single day, getting up at 5:30, breath work, meditation, outside sun, first thing in the morning, stretching, push-ups, eating clean, cold showers, organizing my bag, gratitude, 1 minute of gratitude. I actually write it down, but goals, 1 minute of my goals. I write them all down. I spend way more than 1 minute, but I only have to spend 1 minute, so it's easy. To-do list, to-do list night, next week to do, because I'm trying to get to a point where I'm constantly, I'm writing down in my to-do list, getting it all out of my head and trying to go further out with it, with the things that I know. And it's becoming pretty easy. I'm oh yeah, next week I have, my son has this thing at school, and I put it in there for next week. And I didn't do that before. A lot of people do that. Or it might be in my calendar, but I put it in my Google Calendar, but I put it in my journal. Delete 5 photos from my phone, little things that just make things better. Morning journal, bed journal, no social media consumption past 8 p.m., no negative social media. So run 3 minutes. I have a running machine. I run for 3 minutes. And, I normally end up doing 10, but in the morning, I only have a little bit of time before the kids get up. I have an hour and a half actually, which is awesome. But, and I can get a lot of these things done, but it's, what's clear, and my whole overarching point, there's more things that I've got here, but what is super clear, and I haven't even gotten into building my systems and habits. I've gotten through 2.5 weeks of these disciplines, and that's awesome. They're tiny, right? And that, I think, is the key. It's the thing that I've failed at so much in the past. I freaking have made, stuff where it's ridiculous. It's a full page of, when I was in my 20s or 30s, never gave up, but, tried days that nobody could do out of the blue. And I would genuinely think that I could. I would write down, an hour of strength training a day, 45 minutes of cardio on top of that a day, reading an hour a day, a book, because I want to be an avid reader or whatever. On and on and on and on and on, on and on and on. 30, 40, 50 things like that. Meditate 20 minutes a day. mobility practice, 20 minutes a day, Tai Chi, like just like studying this, studying that, like just lists of like, and I'd get through one day and my willpower's just completely shot. I can't even think, and of course, right? It's like, this is not anything new. You can get there. There are plenty of people that operate that way if that's the way they want to operate. But what's really clear is you got to do the slow boil. You start with cold water, and it just you turn that heat up slowly, slowly, slowly. So, the awesome thing is like, I've been doing push-ups all my life, but I have 3 push-ups written down. All I have to do is 3. It's like an incredibly easy number if you've been doing them all your life, right? But it's like, the problem I was having is I would go weeks without doing any. So, if I'm going a month, which was without really going ahead, did you do any push-ups at all this month? Did you work out at all? If that's happening to me in my life, it's better for me to go something so low and build that for a long period of time. And then I get it up, then eventually make it more and more. If it gets to something like 30 or 40 or 50 too soon, I'm not going to continue that. So I've got to find a way to, like, something's going to knock that out of the water, where there's almost nothing that can knock 3 out of the water if it's my baseline. I could, jump down and do 3 push-ups right now in a few seconds. So it's like, at the end of the night, if I hadn't done it, like, I can get it done. That's an interesting thing that I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves, especially once I start building the systems after I can get through the rest of this stuff. So, yeah, this is exciting shit. I also can't wait to, hopefully once I can get further along, I can come back through and remake some of these videos in a more succinct way. I'm trying to improve, maybe more preparation, and actually make a video that's not just just a lecture kind of free form thing, but I think that the content in here and the things that I'm talking about, at least for me, are useful, and I hope they are for you too. And if you see this and you've made it here, you're probably going to make it. You're gonna master yourself. If you're here now at the end of this, I don't know how far in we are, but we might be an hour in. I'm not sure exactly, but if you're here, think about that, and you've actually watched this, you're probably going to make it. Because for you to sit through the pauses, through the ums, through all of it, through this kind of a discussion, it means this kind of a thought process. This is the kind of a thought process that I'd have on a Saturday where I don't have anything for a few hours and I'm jotting down notes in my office and I'm thinking to myself, this is what's happening right now. And if you're here right now and you've made it through this video and you're here listening right now, you're gonna make it because you want it that bad. That's how I am. The fact that I'm doing this and putting this out there, knowing that I believe unequivocally that this subject matter with which we're talking about, and to refine your character traits or to figure them out or to fucking do that somehow is so important and takes balls to do that. I'm not saying it takes, for me, But it takes courage to do that, to stop and say, I'm going to work on I'm going to figure out my character. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make it, to be conscious of it. And to be ready when I come up against something in life where I need to exercise it. And so if you're here, it means that you're ready to keep going. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going as long as I can, and to try to get to a place where this is launched into the stratosphere. I can't wait for the next one. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.